said Harvard University, who was part of that development, admitted it. And in one of my courses, I have their full, statement. They finally got into schools and changed the lighting in schools, and they found that kids who had behavioral issues and, ADHD at the time and autism, they'd all react. Their body would, their moods would react when the lighting was changed. And
there's videos online showing that, isn't
there? There's videos online. There's studies that were done. We can share the studies. Mate, this is old hat.
Welcome, it's Richard Flook, Guiding Healing Energetically, and I'm here with Chris Henderson, and we're going to be talking today about light. And it's not just the light that you have outside, although we're going to be looking at that. It's the light that comes off of these things, mobile phones, your computer, which you're probably watching this on, and the light that's going into your eyes and onto your skin. And why is that important? Why is that important to your health? And so we're going to be guiding you and to look at your healing as well, and just general well-being. We're going to be looking at energy, really. Why is this really important? So let's go straight over to Chris, and who's in Australia. And I've met Chris, I suppose, 2017, wasn't it, Chris? Was that right? On that time?
Yeah, I think that's right. That was in one of your workshops in the Sunshine Coast. Yep.
Oh, it's fabulous, wasn't it? We were up in Maroochydore, if anybody's ever been there. Yeah, at the RSL Club. If any of you have ever been to Australia, spent any time there. We weren't gambling. We were actually doing a course. It was all about NES health as well. So it's quite interesting. Now, what we are going to be exploring, though, and talking to you, was we met in 2017, became friends, did some really cool stuff with another friend of ours called Cyril. So, Chris, then, let's get straight into your work. Why did you get into lighting? What's it all about, really? What's the big deal here, especially when it comes to healing and especially energy?
Yeah, for sure. It was 2017. I was health coaching, so I'm functional diagnostic nutrition trained. So that's a pretty major functional lab testing type coaching, where people would do stool testing, hormone testing, and we'd guide them through their lifestyle changes and supplements and diet. And I was with another colleague of mine at the time, and he said, you have to get into Dr. Jack Kruse's work because it's very significant. It's about light. And I think it's a missing piece of your, journey, your puzzle, as it will be. And I watched Dr. Jack Kruse. He presented at Western Price Foundation at Vermont, and it just blew my mind, Richard. It was like, how come I haven't been taught about this subject in my courses in functional medicine? And what I did to undertake some of that work, which is probably what your clients want to know, is how this is important, is that Jack said that the takeaway from light is really, really simple. It's see the sunrise as much as you can, and see the sunset as much as you can, and be grounded as much as you can, and mitigate any artificial light in your environment as much as you can. So it was really 4 or 5 key pieces. And it was significant for me at the time, Richard, because in a previous life, I was working as an insurance broker in an office with fluorescent lighting, with a laptop, with Wi-Fi for the first time. And I wasn't old. I was 28 years old, and I lost my eyesight within about 3 months of working in that environment.
Wow.
I didn't know why.
Gosh.
Okay. I didn't know why. I didn't understand why. Okay. I didn't, we all understand food and vitamins and nutrition. I didn't understand how the energetics of these subtle energies in my environment could have been affecting me. So virtually, I had to have prescription glasses, and I thought that was cool, mate. Another way to get the chicks, nice set of lenses look pretty cool. After listening to Jack's work, I understood why that happened to me. I understood when blue light is isolated, and it's very energy dense, and it can get behind your eyes, cause a lot of oxidative stress and a lot of damage. So I was at a position where I could take on Jack's what would you say his recommendations, which was I just watch the sunrise in the morning, and I got a pair of orange glasses to block blue light out at night. And I will not kid you, within 6 weeks, I had my eyesight back again. I did not need those prescription glasses. And
Wow.
I tested it for myself. And okay, what was that all about? Well, it's as simple as this. There's a lot of red and near infrared light in sunlight. I think it makes up about 49% of terrestrial light, the ambient light. And that is very, very healing for our cells and our metabolism. Virtually runs our cells' energy system. So gives us energy, rebuilds cells, builds energy in the cell. And that's how I rebuilt my eyesight, because of this amazing light emission I was getting in the morning. And I stopped any artificial light from damaging my eyes at nighttime. And I migrated all of my workstation outside like I am now. So I didn't get any artificial light during the day. So very significant. That was my first step into this world of light and how effective it could be in healing.
I want to just come back to Jack Kruse. He's a doctor, a medical doctor, but he's was originally in dentistry and then became a neurosurgeon. And he was top of his class. This guy is one of the really top people. Became very disillusioned by modern medicine. I won't go too much into him, but it's brain surgery. It really is. So this affects our mood. It affects light affects our mood, and he talks a lot about sunlight and exactly those protocols which I talk about in the book. Get out in the sun. And people may ask, well, why aren't I outside? It's really cold out there right at the moment in France, which is very unpleasant, and it's wet as well, rainy, which is not good for computers when we're doing a podcast like this. So
we'll forgive you, Richard.
Okay. Well, we know you've mentioned a lot about why is light important, but let's go a little bit more into some of the why does it affect us? Why is this ultradian rhythm, not ultradian, circadian rhythm, which Jack Kruse talks about? Ultradian rhythms are something different, but they're probably related. And why is that so important for health and energy? Why?
Yeah, look, we've adapted as modern humans into a world the last 150, 200 years that is totally different to what we spent the last millennia doing, which was, outdoors. And basically our only light source was the sun coming up for daytime and the moon coming up for nighttime. And our whole metabolism, biology, physiology, how our hormones work is all controlled by the daytime and nighttime cycles. So with all our physiological functions and chemistry functions in our cells and our body, physiological systems are attuned to night and day, or day and night. And what we've done the last 150 years is totally reverse that, virtually bring daylight into nighttime with all our modern lighting, especially today, not so much in the past because we had the incandescent light, the halogen light. The LED light over the last 25 years has really brought daytime lighting into a nighttime. And what that does, and what's significant to your listeners, Richard, is that your body is confused about what time of day it is. And that's going to affect how your body releases melatonin, which is a critical sleep hormone. And if you don't get enough melatonin into your system before bedtime, guess what? You do not metabolize and process old dying cells. You don't detox properly, and virtually it's a major antioxidant. Melatonin is a natural cancer fighting element. It's amazing. So we've virtually become one Dr. Leland Stillman basically says in our modern day we're melatonin deficient. Everyone's in a constant melatonin deprivation state.
I think there's another important factor, and I really want to stress this, is you can supplement melatonin, fine, but really you don't want to do that. You don't really want to have to use any supplements at all, apart from getting stuff from your food.
And the reason being, why that's important, Richard, is that it's just like, say, if you take thyroxine for hormones for your thyroid, the body will shut down from making that naturally,
Yeah.
and it'll become, yeah.
So you become
sorry,
melatonin depleted, you become thyroxine depleted, and your body can make it most of the time, unless you've had it removed. That is the thyroid.
Exactly.
Can I also say something else that other people might go, oh yeah, well, I don't agree with that. That's absolute garbage. I don't have any problem with sitting in front of a screen. I don't have a problem with any of that. My eyesight's absolutely perfect. Okay, and what's all this circadian rhythm about? Oh, you're talking astrology. 2017, ironically, I think it was 3 people won a Nobel Prize for their work on circadian rhythms, and they proved categorically that we are connected to the sun and the moon cycles, the night and day cycles, and I think you're going to show people as well, because you've got a light meter there, what is really going on. So let's is there any more stuff that you want to add from that? Because we could talk for hours and hours and hours and have, to be honest.
I mean, I think we could. I think one thing, I'm going to fire this up in a minute, but one thing that I learned from Jack, when I watched Jack talk, he recommended a bunch of books and resources to get stuck into, and the one that has pretty much the lingering effect is a book called Health and Light by Dr. John Ott. Now, Ott was virtually, the main man in terms of researching light and how it affects physiology, both on plants, animals, and humans. And everyone should get that book. So, Health and Light by John Ott, because he was his profession was a cinematographer for Walt Disney. He created time-lapse photography, and while doing that photography, when they changed the lighting or took out certain frequencies of light, the plants would be affected, the animals would be affected. And he did further studies into humans, and they finally got into schools and changed the lighting in schools, and they found that kids who had behavioral issues and ADHD at the time and autism, they'd all react. Their body would their moods would react when the lighting was changed. And
there's videos online showing that, isn't
there? There's videos online. There's studies that were done. We can share the studies. Mate, this is old hat. It's just like Kruse had his epiphany when he realized that what he was taught in medical school, they'd hid half of it in the dusty old library, and you had to go back and search, a few decades in the past to see what was really true. And it's the same with Ott. You look at his work and go, oh my God, well, they changed lighting in schools, and they looked at even dental records for the kids. Their calcium in their teeth, there was more upregulation of that because the actual lighting they used had very trace levels of UV light coming from them. So they were able to actually upregulate their vitamin D while they were indoors. And they saw that in the dental records. And this is mate, you can go and find these studies. They're online. We can provide them. So we're not, I have to say, we're not bloody blowing hot air. This is not us. This is not our, we're just woken up tomorrow and thought this was a great thing to get on to,
Or even Jack Kruse thought it was a great thing to get onto. It's there's in the book I talk about this John Ott's work, which you can, if you search enough, you can even get a PDF of it. It sold over 1 million copies or something, Health and Light or whatever it is. And I think, but you can buy it as well. It's not expensive. It's a great book. And there was this situation. It was during this big pandemic. I think it was 68. And people were dying, and oh gosh, when we have to go and do all this sort of stuff. And there was it's in Florida. I think it was Tampa. And there was a big what was it? A place where they were making lenses or something for glasses.
It was the factory that he was working with them to build the full spectrum lighting and the UV penetrable glass panels, for production. Yeah.
So they put these glass panels in this place, right? And then next door there was another factory. I don't know what they made, but when this thing hit and wiped out all these businesses and they had to close and etc., where John Ott was working alongside these people, not one person apparently got ill, not one person had a problem. at all. Whereas the factories next door to them all went down. I mean, people were ill and sick and everything else like that. It was incredible to read this. So,
Incredible.
this is
Yeah.
really real. And I think that the key behind that is normal glass that you have in your windows, one here, is blocks this full spectrum light coming through. I'd love to see that on your spectrometer, which you showed us a moment ago.
Yeah, we'll fire this up. Richard, if I can just add to what you've said, I
Yeah.
think the bottom line is to make it as easily understandable as possible, so we can go into the depths of the depths. But virtually, the body's attuned to this multiple spectrum of light, which includes all the different color frequencies, like from violet to ultraviolet to unseen ones to green to red to blue, and they all do different physiological things when the body interacts with them. So I guess what we've done, what makes light so bad these days, is the way they've engineered it. You're taking light in isolation out of that full spectrum, and it's just like, what would you say? It's just, for example, it's just like thinking, you can get all your multivitamins out of one little pill instead of eating organic food, and having a beautiful meal. It's like say everything's, has this, take this little pill and everything's right for you. It's just not. We changed it so much from this full spectrum. So yeah, what John Ott was, what his main aim was, he was all about UV light. And we look at, we don't want to mention COVID or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you can see multiple studies around vitamin D and comorbidities and death. Okay, so vitamin D levels super important. How do we make vitamin D? Yes, you can supplement it, but what do you need? You need to get your body exposed to full spectrum sunlight.
Yeah, and I've been really taking a lot of heed to that, because there's a little app you can put on a phone. I don't know whether people can see that, called D-Minder. And D-Minder will tell you where the sun is in the day and when you can actually get vitamin D naturally. And we're getting into the 1st of November, apparently where I live here, no vitamin D, can't get it. So I have to supplement, which is absolutely
That's what people supplement, or they can get a UV, they get lamps with UV
yeah.
light. And another thing is, like, Alexander Wunsch is he's a photo biologist. So that's someone who knows how light interacts with our cells. And he basically said that pretty much 2/3 of how the body metabolizes food has a lot to do with your exposure to near infrared light, that's the unseen portion of the spectrum that you cannot see outside. So that doesn't exist inside, Richard.
Yeah.
So if you get locked down for 3 months and don't get outside, or you work in a big factory, or you work in an office block, and that doesn't exist inside. So virtually, how your body's metabolizing food, vitamins, nutrition has a lot to do with how much you're exposed to UV light, near infrared light, and then the full spectrum of the sun as well.
And I think it's also important to say that if you are supplementing with vitamin D, your body cannot sulfate, because it has to turn into a sulfate in order to be able to be used by the body. So you may be popping lots and lots of vitamin D pills or oils or whatever, it's oil soluble or fat soluble. And if you're doing that, you've got to get out into the sun or UV light or ultra infrared light. I think it's UV light, in order to activate.
UV. Yeah. UV. And what you said about the windows, the reason why Ott was building those UV penetrable windows is because it blocks UVB, which makes vitamin D. So you get stuck behind these windows. I actually recently found a company in America that makes UV penetrable and infrared light penetrable glass.
Wow.
So I finally found someone who does it, and this is what Ott was trying to do, because, in all these studies, he was proving how important UV light was. And unfortunately, places like where I live in Australia, because we have a high melanoma rate, virtually they've tagged it on UV light, but there's a lot more going on with melanoma and cancer than UV light. And in going back full circle to melatonin, right, and not sleeping well, because there's so much artificial light, your body can't clear those malfunctioning cells. all those sentient cells that need to be cleared and autophagy and apoptosis and replaced and repaired properly if you don't have enough melatonin. So why do you think cancer rates are going like that?
Yeah,
Because we're not repairing and replacing cells.
Sentient cells, by the way, for people who don't know, are the cells that sort of go rogue and then they reproduce and keep going rogue. And they can clear that naturally by the body, but if the body hasn't got the energy or the efficiency to be able to do that, they carry on. Autophagy is basically, it's like self-eating. It's a Greek word meaning self-eating, which the body does to recycle parts.
It does, if you have enough melatonin.
Right. So if you don't have enough melatonin, you can really screw yourself over. So you need the melatonin. You need all these things. In other words, I think the best way to understand it is stop living in a unnatural way and get back into sort of a natural way. People might say, oh, earthing, oh, that's a load of garbage as well. But actually, there's even a tremendous amount of science about that. I don't want to go into that right now. What I do want to go into is just showing people I think that there's some UV, there's a little bit of UV light showing on the top of this D-Minder. This D-Minder app is free, by the way. It's called D-Minder, D, and then M-I-N-D-E-R. It's free, download it, it's great. I use it all the time. It gives you a record of your vitamin D levels. There hasn't been much sun, and my vitamin D level is going down. It's actually higher than that, but it's 97, what is that? Nanomoles per liter. So it's not great, but I'm sure it's higher than that because when the sun's out, I'm out with my shirt off, walking around with skin in the game. And
skin in the game. I've seen you, Richard, because we were Zooming back in your summer when you had nothing on and getting tanned up, and anything over 100 nanomoles is good. So around 100 is 150 is good. So you've built that up in your body over summer and stored it away, ready for use in the winter. That's what we should do, and that's what most Europeans are used to doing, traveling off to nice climates and then going back home for the winter. It's the only way you can really survive.
Absolutely.
Not getting the flu and getting sick.
Well, no, I did have a very unpleasant cold, but in the typical stress and understanding, we went through a very stressful, challenging situation with my son and his apprenticeship, and that's what really stressed the whole family out. And so stress can trigger underlying issues, and so we've had that, and I knew it was going to go on for about 3 weeks, which it certainly did. It's absolute bind. Let's not go into all of that. It's another story for another day. We get these issues. We get multiple
layers.
Yeah, and it isn't. But let's talk about this. This is amazing. You've just taken a shot of what?
So I've just taken a shot of this screen that I'm looking at. So the predominant light, you see that big blue light spike there?
Yeah.
So that blue light is in a range of frequency that can do a lot of damage, both to the eyes, to the skin. Virtually take that type of signal. That big spike is what you'd find it doesn't even exist in nature, by the way. I'll take a shot here. I'll do a shot here of the ambient light and show you what that looks like comparatively.
This is what time is it there at the moment?
So it's nearly 5 o'clock at midday.
Okay, look.
Can you see that?
Look at the amount of blue light in there, and the amount of red light, which is
exactly the red's starting to kick in, the blue's going down. That's natural. What we had before is just this massive blue spike of blue light that sends a signal to your brain that it's midday sunlight, and your body chemistry is virtually it'll stop. It'll basically pump out cortisol and insulin, and it will not allow the melatonin to start coming and virtually put you into that sleep state. That is what that blue light does.
Let's just understand that. So what's happening during the blue light, which does actually, it does peak first thing in the morning when you go outside. First thing
it does peak, but it does not peak like that.
No,
it's very. If we had a screenshot, it'd be a very smooth peak in balance with all the other actual frequencies and colors. That is just it's
So,
it's engineered, it's unnatural, and the body, it's sending a really aggressive signal to the body.
so let's just go back to that, because when you leant into the screen, we could actually see everything that was on the meter there. These are quite expensive, these meters. Oh, that's perfect. Now we can actually see it. We can see the wavelengths. We can see that low blue light and the big natural infrared going up into 700 nanometers, and the blue being 300. So now do your screen. Do exactly the same thing. This is the screen, your computer screen, and I'd like people to see a mobile, because they might say, well, I've got a thing that actually takes that off. Reduces the amount of blue light. I know people will say that.
It's just recalibrating. Well, people, there are, let me do this.
Have you got that on? Okay. Yeah, now you can see how much blue light. So it's almost the same as the red light. People might say, well, that's not a problem. I'm sorry,
well,
it really
is a problem. It's a massive problem. If you the problem is that any blue light, remember what I said, we evolved, our physiology, our chemistry evolved with dark and light cycles, total darkness, right? That's how our cells are attuned for health. We need total darkness for melatonin to kick in and work. And all of the lighting, virtually all of the lighting that I see, is blue and green light dominant at nighttime, once the sun's gone down.
So what this is doing, you alluded to it earlier, is it changes your insulin. It changes the cortisol, glycogen, and also the adrenaline. So all of them ramp up depending on the amount, which means that you then don't release melatonin. If you're not releasing melatonin, by the way, you make melatonin first thing in the morning.
That's right. Good point.
So people need to understand that. So what happens is that you're under stress. Your body is under stress, which means that you don't sleep. And the melatonin is released, it's actually a couple of hours after you then fall asleep, and it repairs the brain. It's an antioxidant. You need it.
Richard, that's right. And that brain one, and to speak to the person who says, I don't feel it, it's not affecting me, I sleep. I see so many clients who sleep, who say, I sleep well. And as soon as I ask them, do you dream? Do you have any vivid dreams? They say, no, I never dream. Okay. That shows me they're not in REM sleep. They're not in that deep sleep where the brain is getting detoxified and it reduces in size and it's getting flushed through with a lymphatic system. And
yeah.
And what I say
why
to
is
them
that important? Tell people why.
That's exactly what the point I'm going to make, is that 20 years of that equals Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, MS, neurodegeneration.
Okay, so let's also then put this into context, because I know Dr. Jack Kruse was talking about this. Mobile phones, kids on mobile phones, they've grown up with this stuff. He says he's never seen this, but there are young people with those neurodegenerative diseases. They're getting them. Whereas this was a disease of 50, 60, 70-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they're seeing 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds. So
because this is speeding up. That's what, sorry for interrupting, Richard. This is all this artificially lit environment is speeding up more oxidative stress, much more oxidative stress than we had when we were kids growing up. And more oxidative stress needs more resources to neutralize, and speeding up. It's just virtually speeding up aging. That's what it's doing. It's the most common denominator. That's where you're seeing all those things manifest in younger and younger people.
So when it comes to healing, how's it? What is your opinion on that?
In terms of, I just believe more natural light in moderate quantities. I tell all my clients, 15 minutes. Try to get sunrise. Try to get 15 minutes at midday. Try to get 15 minutes when the sun's setting. Use things that are quite cheap and affordable, like blue blocking glasses.
We'll go into this. Yeah,
we go into where the glasses 2 hours before you go to bed, and I do some other things. But virtually, I get reams of clients come back and send me emails saying, I haven't slept for 3 months, and now I've done this for the last 2 nights, and I can finally sleep. I'm feeling rested. it's like we're peeing this melatonin down the toilet. It's so critical, and our entire environment is basically degrading it because we have stuff that's engineered without. This is a big point that I like to make. These lights, these phones, these tablets, these computers, this light spectrum's engineered without a hint of health in mind, without humans in mind, virtually. I used to work in lighting, and I used to work in lighting, selling lighting, and I can't believe what I was selling. I didn't know what I was selling at the time, and literally I've caused a lot of damage myself by, people buying the lighting that I didn't know. So I guess that's maybe a segue into. I did a lot of research and found companies that were providing lighting that was much better than the standard lighting that was on the market. Yeah.
Well, let's go into that because let's talk about what the solutions are, and there are quite a few solutions that you could do. I think that the key though is get out in the morning, get out during the midday, and get out in the evening. I found though, in order to get my molar levels up, my nanomolar levels up, I need to be out for hours, like an hour sunbathing.
Yeah.
Both
it's good
sides,
to use that app. Yeah, that's
which
good
is
to use
why I'm
that
brand,
app.
which is
we've all got different skin types, and that's what that app is good to find out. Okay, for your skin type, how do you have to sort of move into, like, the darker you are, the more time you need to spend out to get that vitamin D up. It's like it's like Congolese people. I mean, they live and die on the equator. That's another thing to bring out with dark people on the African Rift Valley. They're black, right? They're designed to live in this high UV light, and when they because of the globalization of the world, they might get a job in the UK or go to, I don't know, Michigan or something in the northeast of America, and you see dark people with that yellow jaundiced color in their eyes. It's because they're not getting enough UV light to metabolize the bilirubin in their system.
bilirubin comes from the liver. It's can't remember.
It's like a type of jaundice. It's like and there's a disease that medical professions say there's no problem with, but it is quite a problem when you're not metabolizing things properly. I'm just bringing that point up is because modern humans feel they can do anything and everything, go anywhere, live anywhere, eat anything. It's just we've still got that. We're still tuned into these signals where our systems are born. Where our physiology is meant to be. Anyway, that's a different rant, a different story.
Let's talk about solutions. I think one of the solutions
sure.
I'd love to see, does it really make a difference on the screen, is you've got your, let's just talk about computer screens and maybe the mobile phone screens. There are apps that you can buy. We didn't even talk about flicker off these lights either. There are apps that you can buy. The one I have on my computer is called F.lux, F.lux. It's the one I use. There's another one I've got it in the book. Do they make a difference? I think they probably do. I don't know. Certainly feel better.
Yeah, I think Iris is the better one.
Yeah. Depending on the screen, because my screen, it makes no difference. But the Iris actually stops the flicker. We ought to talk briefly about flicker.
Yeah, flicker is important. I mean, there's a few aspects of light, obviously spectrum, and then because the light is hooked into the mains power, that's pulsing depending where you're on the world, either 50 hertz, 60 hertz. I've just tested my these filtering glasses against the screen.
Oh wow, look at that. Yeah, still a lot of green, but at least they're shutting out the blue.
That blue's gone. There's enough blue there to help you keep awake. These are specially designed for people who've got eye strain and headaches, and we've seen really significant results with that.
No, I'm not getting the flicker.
Well, you're not plugged into them. The flicker will probably come if you plug it into the main, when you have the charger.
I'm plugged into the mains, but I know I don't get flicker on the screen because the technology on this particular
you've got that.
Mac,
Got it.
It was one of the reasons why I bought them. But the later Macs, they flicker, and I think let's just put this into context. Your brain, it isn't the eyes, but your brain takes the on and off, and basically the LED lights are designed such that they switch on and off, on and off, on and off in a specific amount of times. And this, your brain then takes that on and off switch, which you don't naturally see, and filters it out. But the amount of energy required, and this is the key, the amount of energy required to do that is immense. So if you sit in front of a screen for any length of time, your brain is going and trying to filter all of that out, and eventually you just feel tired because your brain is having to work and use more energy in order to be able to process that information. And then add that to the fluorescent tubes that we all lived under at school, which were just horrific. Like you said, the 50 and the 60 hertz light bulbs, not quite as bad, but the LED light bulbs are just, unbelievable, the amount of flickering that goes on.
I just took another shot of the nighttime glasses where the blue is even lighter.
So these are red, and basically what the red glasses are doing is they're blocking out the blue and the green. And what then naturally happens is that the body goes, oh, it's time to sleep. So you wear them 2 hours beforehand, especially as you're getting used to this. I find it, I could just put them on, and within 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, gotta go to bed or asleep. They're wonderful. I love them.
So that reading there has still got a little bit of blue and green in it because I'm in an outdoor environment. I'm testing it when you're indoors, and virtually all that disappears. Yeah, it's really, really significant. And I was saying to Richard before we started, I have clients. I had an 85-year-old client. This is a significant story. He was a really interesting character, Richard. He actually ran the PBS scheme for the government in Australia. That's getting the drugs that patented into Australia, the ones that get subsidized by the government. He ran the whole scheme for about 20 years. And I met him. He'd retired. He was about 80, and he said, "Look, I'm taking melatonin. I can't get to sleep. It's giving me nightmares." I said, "Right, look, Arthur, will you just humor me and get a pair of tan through shorts and get your gear off in the morning, and then wear a pair of them at night, a couple hours before you go to bed." Within a week, he rang me up and said, "I don't know, this is unbelievable. I can't finish my movie on Netflix. I need to go to bed. I'm sleeping like a baby." That's an 85-year-old man whose pineal gland's probably, we get a lot of calcification in the pineal gland as we get older, and you find it more and more difficult to sleep. And that was one of my first clients probably about 5 years ago when I was just pushing out the light topic. And that was an amazing story with Arthur.
Pineal gland is a pine-shaped gland in the middle of the brain, which regulates it actually releases melatonin, or is part of making melatonin. I'm going to reiterate that melatonin is made principally in the brain first thing in the morning by looking at the sunrise. This is why it's so important. Just get outside, go see the sunrise. Of course, you may say, well, it's all cloudy. It was this morning here. It doesn't matter. The light that's happening during that time will still be there. So you still need to do it. Okay.
Richard, another thing quickly about that is that I try to tell clients, those especially who have glasses, not to put their glasses on. A lot of the glasses have UV blocking films on them. So I don't want that UV getting blocked from the eye. And I tell them to go back to the optometrist and get that taken off because, you want UV because UV is important signal into the eye, again, to tell you, it's midday, it's 1 p.m., and the chemistry to change through your body.
And let's also talk about that as far as UV is concerned. Jack Kruse basically has a lot of interesting comments about it, that especially in Australia, is UV is bad, that you shouldn't have any of it. In fact, there's even individuals that want to block out the UV of the sun by spraying, and that's geoengineering. Won't go into that. That's another story for another day. This is how mad people are. They believe this stuff, which when you look at the real pure science is just garbage, total and utter garbage. You need the sun. If you go off and do a slip slap slop with sunscreen, and you see the amount of UV light that you're getting, and then you compare it when you have slip slap slop, bearing in mind what we're doing to our kids with that stuff. It's full of cancer agents anyway, or carcinogenic stuff that's known to be to cause cancer. And you're slapping that on your face, you're stopping the UV light getting into your system by doing that, which we have to talk about eyes, but we also have to talk about one of the biggest absorbers of UV light is the skin. And if you're putting that stuff on you, you're not getting any vitamin D production. You're not telling your body where you are in the circadian rhythm as well. So you're completely screwing up your whole system. There really are very few times that you would need sunscreen, and they are really when you are out in exposed sunlight in the middle of the day, and say you're running. But the better thing to do is cover up, put a hat on. Maybe you might have to put it around your ears and maybe the end of your nose. But that would be all that you would need in extreme environments. Just cover yourself up. You might say it's hot. Doesn't matter. Cover yourself up with something that's going to just basically stop you from burning. I understand that. Now, all summer long, and in fact, for the past, I don't know how many years, we have not used sunscreen. We just don't use it. It's very interesting. Oliver will go to school. My son, he's 15 now. He would go to school and say, "Where's your sunscreen?" And they would say, "Where's the sunscreen? Put some on." He'd go, "No, I don't need it." Because he would build up a solar callus, which is the natural way that the body reacts. And people say, "Yes, but it's damaging." Just to reiterate, okay, the amount, I think actually the research is there now. The amount of cancerous melanoma is the fact that because people are not burning, which is very, very dangerous, getting burning the skin, and also they are using these sunscreens, this is causing the problem. And we can actually see this ramping up of melanomas in Australia because of the introduction of slip, slap, slop, rather than just telling people, look,
Richard, it's Richard, just to add, I love what that's perfectly summated. And the viewers need to know that a low vitamin D level is linked with all-cause mortality.
Yeah.
Right? So low vitamin D, high cancer rates, okay? So they're virtually want you to block the vitamin D to save you from melanoma, which just blows your mind. It makes no sense. I came to Australia in 1990 as a kid and saw those slip, slop, slap advertisements. We don't get too much of that now, which is, good. But I did my own research into the Cancer Council of Australia, and they've got their data, even on their own website, that says that indoor workers have a higher rate of melanoma than outdoor workers, right? Why would that be? Lower vitamin D, the skin is not prepared properly. It's, indoors, blue light, you're not building melanin in your skin, which is your natural sunscreen for, one of the things that it does. And you go out as a sitting duck into high UV light. I mean, it's ludicrous. I tell my clients, you've got to build that melanin. No matter what skin type you have, you can build melanin into your skin. And this light that I'm getting now, with this late afternoon light, is going to prepare my skin for UV light tomorrow. And that's a big takeaway. Red and near infrared light will help prepare the system to take in more UV light when you're exposed to it.
I wrote a whole
So you got to be out
as well, and I just to get people understanding this is melanin is in your brain, it's in your body, it's everywhere, it's around every single organ. It is our semiconductor that processes information. Way too much information. We could again a complete session on that. But when you have a melanoma, it's the melanin trying to get out to get the sun. It's trying to get the UV light. So as you put on that sunscreen, you are interrupting what the body naturally does. And you are therefore, by default, causing those problems to occur. So, all the research is now there. We're not saying anything that isn't true. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's talk about solutions though for
let's go.
inside.
Well, we went on a big segue there, but solutions are important. So like I said, I used to work in the lighting industry, and then getting to know this work, I think, well, I need someone who's built a light, right? A good light, taken blue light out of it, made it good for nighttime. And we did that. I found a company in New Zealand called Block Blue Light, who've built bulbs in the screw and the bayonet. And I think Richard's got a downlight there, which he's going to show.
Yeah, there's a downlight, which are wonderful. We have them throughout the house. We love them. There's one. We have them here, but they're also very interesting because they have 3 different settings. We should talk about that in a minute. But we have them. We've been putting them in the kitchen and into our bedrooms as well. We have lovely, just one particular light in the bedrooms. Little bayonet one. No, this is little screw one. So you can get them in all sorts of different sizes. You can even, I think, get them for the 2-prong things that will screw into
little G10s. Also, we've done one for America because the Americans like the can light that screws into the can. So we've got one for the Americans, and a lot of R&D's gone into developing this light. And as you say, we've developed 3 modes into it. Number one, there's no flicker, so these don't flicker. And the 3 modes, there's a daytime mode, there's a afternoon mode, and then there's a nighttime mode. So you can be safe in using these lights across the whole daytime. Richard, if he's in the middle of winter, still needs some nice full spectrum light, not a big spike of blue, but a nice balanced spectrum of blue and green and orange and red. And that's what our lights deliver.
I could probably actually just pick up on the Block Blue Light website, which actually has the correct spectrum. And I think Daniel, which I'd love to get on a podcast, he has one of these spectrum. In fact, that was his original one, wasn't it?
That is his. I bought it off him. He's actually got a more advanced one now that measures the entire, does the full near infrared spectrum that you can't see. So yeah, this is the visible spectrum, and he's got one that goes all the way into that other spectrum. As he tests out light, that's another thing. Light therapy panels that he gets and develops have to be tested for different bands of near infrared light. Make sure they've got the right amount of power and things for therapy. Yeah, he's got a more advanced one. I guess that's another thing we can talk about, Richard. Light therapy, if you like.
I think we should do that on a different podcast because I think the light therapy is absolutely essential. But let's go back to these lights. So see if I can just perhaps shine the light on up here so people can see that it, in fact, if I just put it here, there it is. People could probably see that. And I can change the light. So it's white now, that's daylight. Then it goes to nighttime, which is orange. And then there's a dusk one as well, which is really nice. Yeah. All of them. I think it's crazy. But the one of the things you said to me, you said to me one day, "Wow, mate, you can look at these lights. You can actually look at them with your bare eyes and go, that isn't going straight into your brain. Going, ah! If you look at an LED, one of those LED light bulbs that you pay a fortune for these light bulbs, like €5 here for one of those light bulbs that you showed me. The LED ones, honestly, they're horrible light. It just hurts your eyes when you start using these blue blocking lights. I've got different ones of my sons here. We have different ones.
There you go. You got the different ones
and everything, and all of them. Some of them block a certain amount of light, and then at night you change them out. Daniel makes different ones, different styles, they're different companies, but be very careful who you buy them from. Don't buy the cheap stuff from Amazon because it's garbage. Trust me,
and there's a reason behind that, Richard. I know, obviously, we're full disclaimer, we're both work with a company, we're affiliated with them, so I'm sure you're going to share, your links out to your people.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of R&D into this stuff, right? And like Richard says, mate, this day is saturated with fly-by-nighters on the internet, and knowing what you're getting is important. So these lenses that we've developed, or Daniel's developed, have a special pigment in them, a bit like melanin, that absorbs certain frequencies of light. Okay, some of the cheaper ones, they're just dipped in a tint, and what we found is that will degrade over time pretty quickly, a couple of years, and won't be any good. So we've gotten the full hog and actually put the pigment in the lens, so it's actually a pigment in the lens, not just a dip or a tint. And another thing that you got to be aware of is the optometrist world, and that profession are getting into, blue blocking tints, right? And they're just clear tints. And we've tested a lot of them, and they filter about 10% of that blue light spike I showed you. And virtually I have clients that I go to in their house, and they've got these clear tints on, saying, "Oh, I've got blue blocking glasses, Chris. I've got no problem." Mate, it's just, they're not blocking. You need red or orange glasses to block 100% of blue light, and then amber or clear ones will filter it down. And this is a big misconception, mate. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm going to people's houses, and I'm like, they're not working for nighttime. You need orange or red to block 100% of blue light.
I would agree. Absolutely. And if you're sitting in front of one of your screens, watching TV, it's pumping out that blue light in enormous quantities.
Test it. I told you before we came on, just had a client, I did an assessment in a house yesterday, has not been able to sleep. And we'll do another, talk on the EMF side, because she had a lot of EMF in her house. But I just told her, lights off at night. She hasn't got any of our lights yet, but she told me, I've been off the computer for 2 days. We didn't light the house up at night. I felt sleepy at 8 o'clock, and she slept for the first time in 3 months, mate.
Yeah.
And she's a teacher, that she virtually said to me, "I'm waking up at 1 and can't get back to bed till 4 or sleep till 4. And I'm lying there going, how am I going to get to work tomorrow and teach my kids?" And within 2 days of reducing her blue light exposure, she slept.
It's crazy, absolutely crazy, but it's a simple solution. And we have lived under these now for how many years? A couple of years now.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Oh my gosh, what a game changer.
Sure.
We have them in our living room, we have them in the kitchen, and they're wonderful. A little story about this. Oliver was going to a Montessori school. He's doing something different now. Oliver's my son, he's 50, mentioned that before. And in the school, they had big 30 centimeter or foot square LED light panels. The first thing was I got him some of these glasses, which he would wear continuously in the classroom. And then he went to a different classroom, and by law, by the way, they have to have these lights. And you say, well, can they have different old halogen bulbs? No, you have to have the certain amount of lumens in the classroom. So they put 6 of these panels in. I went in and went, whoa! He was wearing them every day, and he was pissed off. And the other kids, they would play up and everything. There were not many in this room. And we kept saying to the principal, it's a very small school, can we change those lights out? Just add something extra. We don't even have to change those lights. I said, well, yes. Eventually, what happened was, I got so fed up with it. We made some of these lights. We put 8 of these in, and we walked in one day and just shoved them up. From that day on, Oliver's mood changed. The rest of the class's mood changed. Everybody just relaxed, and this was because of these things. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing to see the difference. And the kids just loved it. They could work. Their efficiency ramped up as well. Their knowledge ramped, their ability to be able to sit down, relax, and stay in that place.
You did an experiment like I did. You've just proved what I proved
right
35 years ago, Right. And I have to say this too, Richard, and this is very disappointing in terms of authorities, but I know where I live here in Queensland that the education departments have looked into these things and have had proper testing done at schools, right, with lights and dirty power and things that we know those are these environmental things that know affect the your whole physiology. And I know for a fact that the studies are being canned because of two things. One, liability. You can't say you've been damaging kids. Will be hell on, right? And two, cost. Too costly. So they all know it's an issue, but for those two reasons, bad environments continue to be the learning environments of children, not just here but around the world. I use France when I'm doing talks. I say at least in France, Wi-Fi. There's not Wi-Fi until I think the upper or start of secondary school. At least there's some environmental checks and balances in your countries, and we just don't have them here. So that last client I mentioned, as a teacher, she's going to try and help get this message into the school, which, good on you, mate. But we're interested to see how that goes in a school with like 1,300 kids.
It isn't going to, is it? Let's be honest, because unless the parents go in and just, put their hand in their pocket, which it cost me a couple of €100 to put that in myself, which we then took those panels out afterwards, by the way, because when he left, I wasn't going to leave a couple of €100 there.
Yeah, thing is, we both know that any bureaucratical system that has layers of checks and balances for all sorts of health and safety and things like that's become the norm today. So my suggestion to a lot of clients, especially with children, is like, obviously there's environments you can't control. In those environments where you have to send the children to school, yes, send them with a pair of glasses on. Kids have prescription glasses these days. You can protect their eyes from their iPads and all that stuff there, and then try and do things in the house. Have the lower blue lights at night. We'll talk about EMF in another talk, but these are things that we can control, and are very kids, as you say, the demeanor, their mood changes. And we have to say this one thing, which I don't think we've actually mentioned on the call, as my light is fading, is that the blue light on the screen not only affects melatonin, but it also affects dopamine.
Yeah, I was going to say dopamine. I wrote it down. Yeah. Let's talk briefly about dopamine. Why? Yeah. People are going, oh, what's dopamine?
So dopamine, and you can pitch in as well, but as far as I know, is a neurotransmitter that it's very big. It's motivational, right? And it's hooked into our reward systems, and this is the thing. And we have to say this, and we can say this in all truth, and because it's been admitted to, is that they've said that Harvard University have said, okay, well, we've developed blue light, but sorry, we've just realized that it's affecting your dopamine. So with social media, with light, and with all these things that are entrapped into our modern day life, you get the pings for your notifications and your dopamine's getting hit. It's like, I'm going to get a hit of dopamine. Yeah, someone's liked my page, and then boof, blue light, depleting it. So we're like this little mouse on a hamster wheel, right? It's ping for dopamine, light depletes it, and we're on this up and down treadmill, mate. That's terrible.
We could say that what's actually happening is this. In fact, dopamine levels have been directly linked to neurodegeneration, specifically
That's
Alzheimer's.
Right, Parkinson's.
So as I said, and Parkinson's. We can actually see that, and the research is there. And as I think Jack Kruse pointed out, that what's happening now is quite simple, is that the young people are showing up with these neurodegenerative diseases, which he's having then to deal with, because he's a neurosurgeon. Yeah. So there's that particular piece. Dopamine, like you said, is the reward area. It's also related to the amino acids, amine. It comes from melanin. And it's basically what makes us very creative. The CIA did a load of research into it and found out that if they had loads and loads of blue light, it becomes very addictive, and that's why they put it in casinos. So you have all these blue light in casinos, which makes people stay there longer and longer, so they can extract more money out of it. CIA was, it's the CIA
Wow.
is basically a long combination of many things of organized crime, basically. And so that's what they would want to do. Also, I believe that Steve Jobs and Bill Gates knew about that with screens as well, and added the blue light, and the LED whole culture has come from that. So you can see how they want people to be hooked onto these things and involved with the computer and the phone. And you know what? They've done an incredible job of just making all of us addicted to these things. I know myself, it would be
Dopamine.
before I
That's
realized,
right. And then it's in Richard,
oh,
it's not like they haven't admitted it. As I said, Harvard University, who was part of that development, admitted it. And in one of my courses, I have their full, statement. And it's almost like, what I'm thinking of as you talking there is staying up till midnight on your bloody blue lit screen, getting sucked into internet shopping marketing that's coming through your Facebook thread and going, yes, yes, yes.
We've all done it. Let's be absolutely truthful. I noticed, here's a little cutoff point. I actually got this from Dave Asprey, whether it's true or not, but this is where I got it from. He said, if you go past 10:45,
yep,
you are still exposed to blue light. You will not sleep until 2 o'clock.
yeah,
And
that's true.
Absolutely true. And sometimes I don't get a decent night's sleep at all. I'm sort of rocking and turning and everything because the melanin is not being released. Therefore, I don't get any deep sleep. Just test it out. Don't believe me? Just test it out.
Test it out. And look, we're not here to go, hey, fit your whole house. Look, fit your whole house out with lights if you want. But dead set, start with getting sunrise and getting a pair of blocking glasses. Simple as that. And you will see, your sleep change, for the better. And I know that. And then you obviously go further down a rabbit hole and you get addicted to good night's sleep. And you start talking to people about how they need to change their lives.
And it really, these things, game changer for us. And people say, well, why don't you get the old halogen bulbs, or even the incandescent bulbs? They're for you, without a doubt, but you can't get them anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Why the government suddenly saying, so these are LED bulb lights that do not have, especially the orange bit, so much light in them, or the blue and the green light. And you can alter these. These are the biolights, they call them. But they also
virtually.
What is it? The Sweet Dreams downlights, which I've got loads of those too, which we put in the bedrooms. They're lovely. It's exactly the same sort of fixture. They're super easy to fit and change out if you need an electrician to come in, depending on the house, obviously. Super easy.
Richard, people, maybe some of the clients, and they go, oh, it's LED. I don't like LED. Yeah, we don't like LED either, but everything's been reverse engineered as much as it possibly can, And then obviously, look, you build a new house these days, you have to put LED light in them. What do you want to do? Put the crappy ones in? So this really is the second best option. It's the lesser of the evils. And I shouldn't say that because they're very good for you. They're much, much more healthier for you.
Yeah. So, it holds your energy, keeps your energy up. If you're healing, it'll stops that. I liken it to this. It's like someone poking you in the back, going, oi, 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 you, oi, you, oi, you, and it's continuous. So it stops that person. They're not doing that to you. So it allows your body to start doing what it naturally does, which is to heal.
And remember, and you made a great point before, Richard, that the melatonin and cortisol are antagonists.
Yeah.
So, you virtually the way we're designed is we have the cortisol rise in the morning as blue light comes into the environment, then go down at night in the absence of blue light. And we've got the inverse happening in most people. And to reverse that is it's probably one of the biggest health hacks you can do is to get that circadian rhythm back in rhythm. And look, on, a few months ago, I started to watch the sunrise again. Sometimes it's difficult in Australia. The sun's coming up at like 4:30 in the morning in summer now. But when you get into that circadian rhythm, it's really interesting because you will wake up at the same time every morning before the sunrise, and you can't change it. It's like, I'm awake now. Your body's back into rhythm, and it's really quite, it's a really interesting thing once you start to get into that reset those things in your body.
Well, we have one of the worst things they ever did was to start changing the clock timing, and we were having to wake up in dark, and the end of they're going to switch them back at the 31st of October, and I'm so looking forward to it because it screws us up getting up and driving all of it to work. But 7:30 in the morning sucks, so it'll be a lot lighter, and I can then go out and see the sunrise because I get back before I can see the sunrise. Look, we really concluded everything. Are there any other thoughts that you have to finish off this podcast? I thought, for want of a better word, I think people understand this podcast.
I just think just one step at a time. Just like my client did the other day. She just didn't go on the laptop after 6 o'clock. Dim some of the lights down. Just start slow.
You can get candles, can't you? I remember being with candles. He had the old sort of oil lamp, and that was just how they lit their place. You can actually get lights from Daniel, which are really nice. We use those at night when you just go into the toilet or something. And lights, and you can see, And people say, I can't do this. This is too dark. Actually, you really acclimatize very, very quickly.
You do. And you just have to, we're not here to, say this or that, or so you have to do all this stuff. You've just got to become your own guinea pig and start testing these things. And usually when you feel a difference, you'll become addicted to the right habits, not the wrong ones.
Yeah, you do become addicted to this stuff. It feels lovely. And when you don't do it, I can vouch for that. When you don't do it, it changes your mood because you're under stress.
That's right. And I think, Richard, one of the main points and last points to make is that in modern life, I think it's numbed us. We've become numb to the energetics around us, numb to our own emotions, numb to our own how the body supposed to be feeling. And when you get back into sync, you become a little bit more sensitive to the bad things, right? And some people think that's a negative. I think that's a positive because the body is now attuned to what's good and bad for it, and it's telling you. Whereas before, we were like the little frog getting cooked in the pot and not having a clue about it.
Yeah, I actually had that metaphor in the book. Hey, we should finish. Why I'm going to say is because it's dark.
I'm getting dark. The mozzies are coming out. The mozzies are seeing the UV light I'm emitting, and they're coming for me.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely great talking to you, and we'll catch up. We've got a couple of other things we want to talk about. One of them is electromagnetic fields, EMFs, particularly Wi-Fi, cell phone towers, and which is another thing that we talked about. Wi-Fi in your house, mobile phone, computer phones, Bluetooth, you name it. These are all another form of light that is screwing us over and causing a horrendous amount of problems. So one other thing we're going to be talking about, and that's redox water as well, which will just be great fun. And these are other things that we're going to be sharing. Anyway, until anything else, we're really completing it.
I'm looking forward to those. We'll go deep down the rabbit hole, and we will. And we're about solutions. Remember, we are about solutions.
So it is solutions. We want solutions, and that's basically, that's the key. Okay, thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Richard.
Great talking to you.